This is Stephanie, Talk Tales and Trivia. How are you doing this week of 2017? I hope everything is going great for you. This episode is a very special episode for us here at Talk Tales and Trivia. I know our regular listeners are probably wondering how we here at Talk Tales and Trivia could ever make the show more special than it already is. Well, this week marks our 30th episode. Unlike our 20th episode, there is no contest or no real fanfare, but there is appreciation for sticking with us and being part of our creation. So we here at Talk Tales and Trivia thank you, our listeners, for that. Our topic for this week is on daydreaming. But first, as always on Talk Tales and Trivia, a definition. What is a daydream? As defined on Wikipedia, daydreaming is a short-term detachment from one's immediate surroundings, during which a person's contact with reality is blurred and partially substituted by a visionary fantasy, especially one of happy, pleasant thoughts, hopes, or ambitions imagined as coming to pass and experienced while awake. And yes, there have been found numerous examples of people in creative or artistic careers, such as composers, novelists, and filmmakers, developing new ideas through daydreaming. And, so I hear, podcasters daydream as well. I know I do. In Psychology Today, it states, if you want to work at something you love, don't ignore the spontaneous thoughts and images that come to you when you imagine yourself at work. The most dynamic and innovative people in any endeavor, business, science, athletics, politics, or the arts, are visionaries. And what exactly is a vision? Well, at the end of the day, I argue that a vision is just an upscale word for daydream, and a visionary, an upscale word for daydreamer. When people say they daydream of being president, or a billionaire, or an artist, or whatever it is they fantasize about, they are daydreaming these goals, literally envisioning them in their mind's eye. Yes, some may call it envisioning future events, but for this episode, we will use the word daydreaming. You see, we all have multiple things we think on or daydream about in one day, and so it would be far too extensive for this podcast to talk about all the daydreams we have. For this episode on daydreaming, I will illustrate my own daydreams in only one particular area. While growing up, I experienced exciting, fun adventures and daydreaming. My parents were artists and creative by nature. We all daydream about many things throughout the day, throughout our lifetime, but being an artist was not one of my daydreams. My daydreams mostly consisted of how I would make my home uniquely mine. The decorating taste I felt regarding how I moved around my home, feeling the stylish comfort I loved so much. You see, everything that we now know was formed as thoughts we were experiencing when we were young. Our homes and what it was like inside those four walls, where we played, had friends, and watched the world as we grew up around comfortable surroundings. This, for a time, is all we knew. Sometimes I think back on Montauk, New York, and smile. I can't help it. Smiling because that is where I spent beautiful family summer vacations when I was a kid. I daydream of living on the beach in a sliding glass house there on the Atlantic Ocean. Nowadays, I look at interior magazines and websites, seeing objects and furniture I will definitely put in my new home. And I daydream about that new home all the time. Yes, it was because of the beautiful, uncluttered perfection of the homes I lived in as I was growing up that I had the daydreams about my own beautiful home. The homes I lived in had a similar design, and they stuck with me through my daydreams. Ah, yes, I truly began to understand my parents as designers and how their own informative years, background, and education made them have homes that had the simplistic beauty that they loved and had daydreamed about. As I got older, I moved from one apartment to another, and as I always did, I had my dad involved in designing and mapping out my apartments in his own clean design niche, his own daydreams, visions, if you will, when he was a young architect. It was an interior design that after a while became my own simplistic love, and I daydreamed more about that design. Yes, at times I fought these designs, but as an adult, I have come full circle and have learned to appreciate the aesthetic flow they strived to create for all of us. Daydreams that my own mom and dad had about the house we all called home. I eventually moved into a simple condo. Now there's something I never thought would happen. That wasn't part of my daydream. But it did happen. And so it was. My father did his labor of love, as he always had, and put together a wonderful, simplistic, and serene place that I could call home. A daydream come true. And now, some years later, I actually do admit to falling in love and daydreaming about the small spaces with hidden compartments and modern furniture that I now see in all the magazines. Even recently thinking about the tiny house movement and their lovingly crafted beauty. I think and daydream to myself, I could live there. On Pinterest, I see houses with stained woodwork flooring and uncluttered rooms. I daydream. I could see myself buying that. Good thoughts, happy thoughts, daydreams that now make me smile. For me, this included recently drawing out clear and precise plans of the house I was daydreaming about, the furniture, a soundproof podcast studio, and, of course, an endless pool for those unforeseen dips I take whenever I want. I see in my daydream that endless pool and me seemingly swimming as I go nowhere, and say, I'll have one of those too. I have gone as far as to cut out a similar house from the real estate section of the local newspaper. My daydream also includes living right across from the beach. It's an easy walk. Town is only 3 minutes away, and everybody does know my name. It's a wonderful place to be and escape to. The items might be in separate locations on the internet, but they are all from my thoughts, ideas, and daydreams. For example, if I go to Pinterest, I see many beautiful pieces of furniture that I daydream about. Skimming the IKEA website, there are beautifully put together rooms where I can buy individual pieces as well. There are also many apps in the App Store. As Business Wire writes, the app IdeaSpace from Wayfair Furniture allows consumers to explore and shop beautifully designed virtual rooms on Daydream, which is Google's mobile virtual reality platform. Daydream about your ideas and visions, your future life, and how you wish it to be. Craft pieces like a jigsaw puzzle, even if it's in your own mind as a daydream. A catalog in your mind of the items that you desire. These are your daydreams. And nobody is the author except you. Make daydreaming yours and yours alone. When and if you desire, write down your daydreams, because it is solely my belief that they can become realities if you think about them and perhaps act on them as well. I leave you this episode with a quote from Michael Pollan, writer of A Place of My Own, The Education of an Amateur Builder. Unlike any other form of thought, daydreaming is its own reward. And isn't that true? As always, we here at Talk Tales and Trivia would love to know your daydreams, your desires. You can always reach us at talktalesandtrivia@gmail.com and go to talktalesandtrivia.com to get the show notes for this episode, as well as listen to past episodes of Talk Tales and Trivia. That is it for our 30th episode, and we hope that you have enjoyed it. And we will see you next week. See ya!